I have a follow-up question for both of you. You've both just demonstrated that there certainly is a high number of hours required for the position of president and the other e-board positions. Hypothetically speaking, if another club were to come to Senate, demonstrate that their club leadership roles require just as much of a time commitment, what would be your thoughts about them requesting similar stipends? Mr. Hammer, you first.
Well, first off, it's a difficult question because, number one, for my job, I put in at least, I only have 1 office hour, honestly, but the thing is, I'm in the office so much. I mean, everybody sees me in the office. I spend a lot of time there, but I know that's not the question I was asked. I was asked if another club came to us and said that they had the same amount of time commitment, would we provide them stipends? And I think that's a slippery slope. Because I think that, number one, USA, yes, and it's a policy that's been going on for many years, and I know it's hard to talk about and it makes people uncomfortable. But at the same time, if we were to provide every single club $1,000 for any board member that takes up the amount of time that we do, which is, I believe the number you used is 12 hours, Mr. Wilkinson, I believe that that would be a very slippery slope and a policy you can't maintain.
Mr. Wilkinson.
I'm not a lawyer, but this is what I came up with. Like the decisions and the roles that we have affect the entire student body. And that's why we're the student government. We're the undergraduate student association. What we do is for everybody, and not every club necessarily does that. That's why I said at the beginning, like, that's a very faulty statement because every club, like some clubs do try and recruit everybody on campus, but we're under the eyes of the administration, and the decisions that we make and the situations and the roles that we put ourselves in puts us under the spotlight, and with scrutiny, criticism, and there's more stresses to this than working on Eco Finance Club, which I'm a member of that, and that's just another huge passion that I put my time into. But I yield.
I apologize, gentlemen, but we have more follow-up questions. Mr. Hammer, you referred to the proposal that other clubs proving that they have a similar time commitment requesting stipends would lead to a slippery slope. Then did not the Senate itself create the slippery slope when it determined that USA e-board members would receive a stipend?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would say that that's a very true way to put that. But I feel at the same time, it's a different situation because they are separate, they're student government, and they're here to basically I don't want to use the words administrate, but that's really what they do. They administrate all the clubs. And I feel like that it's a different position, and I feel like as soon as you go outside that bubble of student government and the Senate and the Undergraduate Student Association, I feel like it's a slippery slope, as I called it before, to allowing other clubs with similar time commitments to ask for money. So does that answer your question, sir?
We'll leave it to the audience. Thank you, Mr. Hammer. Mr. Wilkinson, you referred to the fact that USA e-board members, along with their Senate colleagues, are under more scrutiny, criticism, and in the spotlight brighter than other club officials. Do these three factors of a USA e-board position not lead to dividends in the future? That is to say, do they not pay out in future successes?
It's definitely a resume builder, but writing it on the paper doesn't mean anything if you don't have the words to back it up. I mean, you could go into the interview room with a future employer and you have the best resume in the world, but if you can't speak with what you did, it doesn't mean anything. And I don't know why we're hitting the head on these stipends as much as we are, because there are more essential things that we could be talking about. But I think that it's more than just a resume builder. It's about self-development. And I'm probably going to get a good follow-up question for that statement I just put up. But yeah.
Thank you, gentlemen. We'll move on from there. At this time, we will ask directed questions to the candidates. As a reminder to the candidates, they're allowed 2 minutes to answer a directed question, and the other candidate is permitted 1 minute for a rebuttal. We'll begin with Mr. Wilkinson. As the current sitting president of USA, you have already had 1 year to leave your mark on the presidency and Canisius. To what extent have you been successful? How would you define the Brock legacy as it currently stands?
Defending it, I'd say the best thing that I did this year was let the VPs and the committee chairs do their job effectively. By just having a genuine mood around the office. I never stepped on their toes, and I let them do what they had to do to, make sure that they were accomplishing whatever goals they set forth. Now, at the end of last semester, we figured out our goals. We came up with 3 goals, thanks to the senior senators. It was transparency on campus, enhancing commuter life, and then, man, I don't even remember the 3rd one. We must have accomplished it. But, I think that there's a lot to be said with what I have done, but there's more that I want to talk about of what I'm going to do to kind of further what I've learned this year, because it's a learning curve, and it's a big one. But now, when I said that I let the VPs do their job, I meant it. Like VP Crosay, he brought up the Council of Presidents. I always would, motivate him and say positive things to make sure he was, continuing to do whatever he wanted, as long as it was under the guidelines of the student government. VP Allmendinger, he put hours and hours and hours in with crunching numbers. If he'd come up to me with an idea, I'm gonna do this, or I'm gonna do that, I'd always have an open ear. And with Ann, or VP Continetti, if she wanted to plan something, I would say, well, maybe you should do this, maybe you should do that, but she had the final say, even though officially I do. But you know what, it's their job, and I trust them. And just by bringing in an optimistic, vibe to the student government, I think that helped a lot. But I'll talk about the tangible stuff next question, hopefully.
Thank you. Mr. Hammer, you'll have your own question on a similar topic in just a moment. Is there anything at this time that you would like to respond to? You have 1 minute.
Well, yes, I wish I could ask questions at this point, but just to clarify, I didn't hear anything, like any agenda setting at all, that happened until Christmas, and that was because of the senior senators. So when your question was asked, how are you going to basically define the Brock legacy, I didn't see any definition. So I don't know how I'm supposed to actually respond to that when I don't know what the content is. So
you may cede any of your time in this 1 minute.
I'll see it right now. Go ahead.
30 seconds or so.
For what? No, well, this year, like I said, I made a great atmosphere for work. I made sure that everybody felt comfortable with what they had to do. My job is to talk with administration with student concerns. I'm not responsible for producing tangible things, like say looking at the numbers or creating CEOP or holding events. If I could do that, it'd be easy to tell you what I do. Everything I do is behind the scenes and talking to public, appearances like this.
Thank you. Mr. Hammer.
Yes.
You will have 2 minutes for this directed question, and Mr. Wilkinson will have a 1 minute response period. We have gotten to see over the past year what a Wilkinson presidency meant for USA. What would a Hammer presidency have looked like during the same year? What would you have done differently?
All right, long question for 2 minutes, but I'm going to try to not speculate, but I will say that I would start at the top and start at the beginning. I would have set an agenda the first day I became president. In our meeting, our first day when we took over, I would have said, this is what we're going to do. It's based on student issues. This is what I want to accomplish. And I would have tried to work on it all the way over the summer, and all the way through the fall, and all the way through the spring. I feel like there's a lot of student issues that we haven't addressed, and we haven't had time to address. Mostly because we actually aren't dealing with issues that we're thinking about that are in the forefront of our mind. We're dealing with reactive issues. We're dealing with people coming to us with their problems, not us going out and finding those problems. I feel like if we start from the beginning, like I intend to, and see what students actually care about, what they need done, what they need an advocate for, I feel like that is the defining feature of a Hammer presidency. Does that answer your question, sir?
Do you see?
I see, yes.
Thank you. Mr. Wilkinson, would you like to respond?
If there are any poli-sci majors out there, I'd like to say good morning at Canisius. But that wasn't funny. But now, Canisius is awesome. There are no problems to be fixed. If something comes up, okay, besides, some problems. But, who here is having a horrible time at Canisius? And if there was an issue that you wanted solved, do you feel comfortable enough to come up to me and tell me, to do something about it? I mean, the administration is working on things, and, they're getting paid salaries to try and fix everything. But we're responsible for the students, the constituents, and I really don't know, Speaker Hammer, what your presidency would look like, but I do know there would be a learning curve similar to mine. Yours might have been a little bit skewed to the left, where you would have learned it a little quicker, but, I did what I could, but, for the next coming year, I do have plans in place, and I am prepared for what's ahead because I know what to expect.
Thank you, Mr. Wilkinson.
The next question will go to Mr. Wilkinson first. President Wilkinson, the Canisius College mission statement defines Canisius as a Jesuit Catholic University. What does this mean to you, and how will you represent our mission and identity to students, the administration, and those outside of Canisius?
Okay. I come from a country town, and it's about an hour outside of here. There's more cows than people, but I never really grew up to be religious. I didn't really have a good idea what mission identity was. I came to Canisius because my business teacher handed me a free application here, and he was my golf coach too. So he was like my guy, and you know what? He was an alumni here back in the 80s. And I came here, I saw the Jesuit ideals. They were just words. But this year I, started to go to church. I went on Kairos, and I'm being confirmed in a couple weeks. But I've come to realize what a mission and identity means, and I've noticed that the students were concerned about losing that mission and identity in the marketing campaign. And so I have good rapport with our marketing VP at the campus, and I'm going to make sure that we uphold that mission identity with our marketing campaign. But I think that we do need to hold on to it, and I think it's going to be easier to hold on to now because the Pope that we just had, Francis I, he's Jesuit, if that's correct. Can anybody? Okay, there's some nods. Okay, look at that. But he's Jesuit. That's huge. There's 28 Jesuit colleges in the United States, and we're all located in urban areas, and there's a reason for that, because of the cultural diffusion that happens there. There's people that, not necessarily here, we're mostly composed of, St. Joe's bros and Canisius high school grads, but, it's huge, and that might have been controversial, but I really do love it here, and I think it's a big part of our Jesuit ideals to uphold. And I plan to continue to incorporate that with everything that I do and with everything on campus. I yield.
Thank you, President Wilkinson. Speaker Hammer, you have 2 minutes for the same question.
All right, first off, I'd like to just clarify the question was basically about the mission identity of Canisius, correct?
Yes.
Thank you. I'd say our mission identity is the most important thing about Canisius. It's the thing that makes Canisius Canisius. And what I mean by that is that it's a sense of community as well as a series of what we think is important, our values. It's in the marketing campaign. It's in the way that we carry ourselves around school. It's in the way we talk to each other. And it's in the way we interact in the library. But actually, I want to touch back on the things that we outwardly express to the community about Canisius. We go out into the community and we serve others. That is a huge part of Canisius. And I feel like it's a huge part of other Jesuit institutions. But at the same time, I feel like even though we are great at doing that, I feel like we are failing our mission and identity with this new marketing program. That's personally how I feel. I feel like it does not actually reflect our mission and identity as it relates to who we are and who we are as a community. That being said, I see.
The next question will go to Speaker Hammer first. For 2 consecutive years now, gay marriage activist Zach Wahls has had his visits to Canisius prohibited by the Canisius administration. It appears as though the reason for this is because Wahls' pro-gay marriage message is counter to that of the Catholic Church. Do you agree with this decision?
Absolutely, unequivocally not. I do not agree 100%. I feel like Canisius College needs to be a college and university first, and it does not serve a particular agenda. I feel like it's disingenuous to the students to say that you can't hear a speaker come speak because he speaks on a certain topic. I feel like that's censorship, and I think that censorship is insulting to every student because it deprives you of the ability to pick and choose how you feel about issues. Now, I understand the Canisius administration's reason for this. I understand why the issue warrants more scrutiny than other issues, and I really do understand that. But at the same time, I think that there are issues and ways that we can work around this and actually talk with them and get them to accept such an event and not just outright cancel it, especially 2 years in a row. And I realize the first time was because of scheduling concerns, but the second time is clearly because of the content. I feel like Canisius has a duty to let some of these people come and speak, even if they do disagree with the topic.
Just as a clarification, the college administration did say that it was not permitted because this speech dealt mostly with gay marriage.
President Wilkinson, you have 2 minutes for the same question.
I think that's legal in New York State, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Third time's a charm. So next year, Zach Wahls will probably be here. But it's a sensitive issue. And I got to hear from both sides, the administration and the students. I've heard it from multiple administrators who either are for it or against it. And I've heard it from multiple students who are for it or against it or don't care. But I do think it matters because it is our rights. You know, having a speaker come here and talk about controversial issues, it should be able to happen because we're a college campus and college students have the most freedom, technically. Like, there's things that you can get away with at college that you would never be able to get away with in high school or once you're an adult. And I think there's a great enough need. Zach Wahls will come here. And who here attended LZ Granderson? Okay, who here would have attended Zach Wahls? Nice. Who here attended Dan Savage? Oh yeah. And I just think that Zach Wahls is in that same, general category, and he should have been allowed to come here, especially the second time around. And but once again, the administration did have reasoning for this, and a lot of it is just, to the Jesuit schools in the nation. They all meet up. The presidents of all the Jesuit colleges in the U.S. meet up, and they talk about the guidelines and how they're going to uphold their Jesuit ideals. Basically, bringing Zach Wahls, I think, would have brought negative attention from other Jesuit schools in the nation, which we have no control over. I have no control over, but that's just a little perspective that I can give on the topic. But I do agree that he should come here. I yield.
I have the same follow-up question for both of you. You both just stated that you disagree with the decision to prohibit Zach Wahls from attending. You both also cited as a reason the students, the idea that this is a college where we should hear an open exchange of ideas. How would you, as the #1 representative of Canisius students, intend to defend the right of student organizations to invite speakers who may seem controversial by the administration? What would you be willing to do to fight the administration on this issue? Speaker Hammer, you first. 1 minute.
I think fight is the wrong word, first off. I feel like you can't compel the administration to do anything, especially at a private college. It's about talking about the right issues. It's about making it known that students want this person to come speak. And that's a widespread sentiment. Everybody wants, well, at least everybody I've talked to, has been very disappointed that Zach Wahls couldn't come. And I feel like that disappointment is mirrored not just at student leaders, but at the administration. And they're not angry, but they're disappointed. I feel like what I would do is, number one, Xavier University also, their GSA, Gay Alliance, also brought Mr. Wahls, and they didn't have an issue. That being said, I feel like it sort of validates the point that other Jesuit institutions would look down on us. I feel like I would discuss personally with the administration sensitive issues like this, and make sure that, especially if they're sensitive issues, that they make sure they end up in the right place, the right person, and be talked about in the right context, so that we can ensure that these events go on and they aren't just silenced. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker Hammer. President Wilkinson, you have 1 minute for the same question.
Now, I talk with administration often, and there are ways to compromise this, and it's going to happen eventually, especially if the students continue to, support this. And he was at Xavier apparently last year.
He's currently on.
Oh, okay. Well, if he goes to Xavier and it's a success, then I think that'll really help us bring him. But it takes a big Jesuit school like that to take a step like that first. Even though we love Canisius, we still don't have the population or the reputation nationally to do that. And we, I don't even know right now. I yield.
That concludes our formal moderator questions for this debate. This time, we're going to open up the floor to questions from our audience. Jonathan Beck will walk around with the microphone. If you have a question, please just raise your hand and we'll get to you as soon as possible. Just for clarification, once again, it is a general question. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer. It's a directed question, 2 minutes to answer with a 1 minute rebuttal.
And you may have directed questions too, in which case they have 1 minute. Is that correct?
Please state your name and class year before your question.
And finally, as a last clarification, you may ask any question, even if it's already been asked and you're looking for clarification. We'll start right in the front.
Hi, my name is Lindsay Visser. I am a junior political science and history major at Canisius, and I am also a resident. I live on Hughes, and it is so easy for me to just not engage in campus at all. So my question to both of you is, what would you do to extend the Canisius culture from on campus to not only residents like myself, but to commuters as well?
Is that directed to anyone? Do that first.
Both of you.
We'll go to President Wilkinson first.
All right, well, we do have the commuter lounge, and we do have the CSA rep on Senate, and she's been doing a great job so far this year. And there are a lot of things that have been done to try and get commuters and residents involved. It's trial and error every year, it seems like. This issue happens every year. I wish we had like an archive of absolutely everything that's been tried, but for residents, we used to have like a house decorating contest for Christmas. That usually went over well. Sometimes we even make cards for like happy Easter cards to residents with the surrounding houses. And in Senate we've had Hamlin Park dinners. There's a lot of things that have been tried. Now, if I could really pinpoint it to any certain thing, it would just have to be individual drive for that resident or commuter to get involved, because I've seen the most successful commuters do something on campus. Like VP Crowset, he's a commuter, and he's been executive vice president since sophomore year, and he was part of Senate freshman year. But you have to be comfortable on campus, and I think as a student government we have to be able to provide that comfort. And through orientation and holding other events like that, when I said like that, I mean, okay, so we have orientation. Like, orientation leaders are awesome. Like, the freshmen come in pumped up, but the commuters, and the transfers and the internationals, they seem to still be left out. And I think bringing them into the picture more and getting them involved and being more educational about all the different aspects on campus and clubs is definitely an important thing to hit on. And last night, Dean Mangione came in and we talked about having another student clubs fair, 2 of them in the first semester at campus. And I think having 2 would be a good idea for the Presbyters, commuters, everybody on campus to get involved.
Thank you, Mr. Wilkinson.
Speaker Hammer, you may take 2 minutes, 10 seconds.
Thank you for the extra 10 seconds. I'd like to go with a more tangible approach, actually. I've thought about this issue a lot. One thing that's kept me connected, at least, to what's going on campus is the Stall Street Journal. I think a great start would actually be sending a Stall Street Journal or something like that to every Resmuter. We have lists of which houses are Resmuters and which ones aren't. And we can target and actually bring to them the events that are going on currently on campus to keep them in line with what we're doing. If people know what's going on, they're going to come if they would like to. So I feel like the best way to do it is to directly go out and give these pamphlets to Resmuters. Commuters are a different issue, but that's at least one step in the positive direction for Resmuters. Thank you.
As a follow-up question, will you require that Resmuters post it in their bathroom?
Well, I mean, the Senate has the authority. I'm just kidding. You can vote wherever you like.
I'm Allie Seavey, and I'm a sophomore here. My question is for Mr. Wilkinson. Earlier you discussed the stipend that was provided for members of the Senate. You also discussed potentially increasing it to $5,000. If that's the case, where would you find the funding for that with the tight budget? And also, if it is about the passion for Senate like you spoke of, why would you want to see that monetary value increase?
I guess I should have clarified. I was joking about the $5,000. But it is passion. That's why I'm up here a second time. This isn't an easy position to fill. There's a lot of responsibility. And I'm willing to put another year on top of schoolwork, on top of real-time internships, to do something for the student body. I've learned what I've learned through this past year, through the experiences and the hours and hours and hours of seeing student concerns and seeing these complaints come to fruition. And I've been on Senate since freshman year. I've seen repetition happen, and I'm not about to let that happen again. But the stipend thing, that was a joke. But basically, for next year, I have a lot of plans, and I do plan to get more student involvement. And we are going to bring back the listserv, and I think that's going to be a major change. But there's one thing that's going to happen, one thing that's going to make it different from previous years. For the older people out there, the listserv used to be annoying because we'd get like 50 emails a day, and we were frustrated with that, and that's why we got rid of it. But we're bringing it back under one stipulation that it's going to be filtered through the student government. So whatever we think is appropriate to send out to undergraduates, we're going to do that. And so you're going to be getting 10 instead of 50, hopefully. But yeah, I'm sorry if anybody took what I said seriously earlier, and I hope everybody caught the sarcasm. And from now on, I will put parentheses after my words. But I'm really sorry. I yield.
Thank you. Speaker Hammer, you may have 1 minute rebuttal if you'd like.
I don't think I'm going to need that long. I just wanted to say I did get your joke, Mr. President. Also, just to clarify about the listserv, that was actually first brought up really last night at our meeting. Dr. Mangione came to talk with us about student retention, and we got a lot actually fussed out. But one of the big things is bringing back the listserv, not in its old form, which bombarded students. I know how that is, and I know that mostly because I haven't deleted a single email since like freshman year. So most of them are still in the inbox, so I have maybe 6,000, 7,000 emails still in the inbox. So I know exactly how it used to be. But it's not going to be like that. It's going to be more concise, more consolidated, and it'll give a better idea to people of what's exactly going on without bombarding them. So I just wanted to clarify that, even though it's not along the straight in the original question. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question.